name is Andrew and welcome to my video tutorial. For today I'm going to show you guys how to create or how to make a color correction in Photoshop. Now this instructional video is part of assignment number 4 of PIDP 30-40 course at VCC. Now if you do have a Photoshop installed in your computer, I would recommend you to start loading it up, and hopefully you can follow along with me, and I also hope that you can learn something from it. Alright, I will see you in 2 seconds. Hi everyone, welcome back. Now I have Photoshop open in my monitor, and I also have the image that we are going to work on it. Now as you can tell that this image, this lovely image, seems pretty good. But the problem that I foresee is the face on this woman and also on this woman as well seems a bit underexposed, which means that it's a bit darker than their friends. Now, the objective on this color correction tutorial is to make things look brighter, including the darker spots. All right, so I have a before and after here. And let's take a look at this. So this is a before, and then this is the after. Now, as you can tell, that the after looks a bit darker, and also on the after, I basically tried. I tried to get rid, or I got rid of this post because I found it is a little distracting. Now, how do you do this? Let's get on to the layer panel. We'll turn off both before and after, and so basically you only toggle it on. The only layer that you toggle it on is background layer. Now once you have the background layer, what I like to do is just part of the habit that I never work on the background layer, so I always duplicate this layer by dragging it to the new layer icon, and I'm going to name it as color corrections. Now, by having a duplicate of a layer, it allows me to work on the edited layers, so then if I somehow mess it up, if I make a mistake on it, I can always delete that newly edited layers, and I can always go back to the original. So basically the background here will remain as is, will remain untouched. Okay. Once we have the color corrections layers created, what I want to do next is I'm going to click on the layer adjustment panel, and I'm going to select curves. Right? With curves, it will show you a histogram. So basically, it's a representation of your photo. So there's a lot of darker area than the lighter area, because anything on the left hand side is dark. What we usually call it, the one on the left hand side, which is the black. What we always like to call it is a shadow, and then the middle is usually represented by the gray color. It's called midtones, and then the white one is what we like to call it highlight. We're not gonna touch the black and the white, but we're gonna start from the middle, which is the midtone, and drag it to the top. Okay. Now the beauty of having this layer, curve adjustment or layer adjustment, it allows me to make any changes on the fly. So again, this is a non-destructive method. Instead of doing it on the color correction layers, I'm actually adding some sort of like an adjustment layer on top of it, where you can always adjust. So I can always adjust it, if I underexpose it for a bit, for instance, or if I want to overexpose this. Okay. Now, assuming that we'll just place it like that, so everything looks good except, right? So these two faces are amazing. They're much better than before. Okay. But the problem is, like, the rest of her friends are a bit brighter. Now, how do you fix that? So what we're gonna do is we're going to use our brush. The shortcut is B, okay? And then what we want to do is we want to make sure that the black is on the foreground. And once you've done that, you want it to brush right around the edges, okay? like so. And then I'm gonna do the second one for her friend's face. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm gonna use my lasso tool, and the shortcut for this is L. Okay. And then what you'll do is you'll just draw it around her face. Okay. Doesn't have to be precise as long as it's within that area that we use the brush at. And then hold Shift to make a second or multiple selections. Okay. Now once we've done this, we're going to invert the selection, because right now it's just selecting the face. What I want to do is I want to make a selection around the image, around, like, basically I don't want to select the face. So the shortcut for that is Command Shift I on the Mac, and on the PC it's Control Shift I. Okay. So now, as you can tell, that it's actually selecting the rest of it. And then what you want to do next is you want it to fill the selection that we just selected with black. So which means that we have to use our shortcut to fill it is Option Delete. Okay. Or if you're using a PC, it's Alt and Delete key, or a backspace key. Okay. And once you've done this, you want to deselect this by holding Command D or Control D if you're using PC. Now, as you can tell, it looks pretty good, right? Now again, because this is an adjustment layer, you can always crank the face. Ooh, that's pretty scary looking. But with the layer adjustment panel or palette, you do have ability to change it on the fly. Okay. So next thing that I want to do is I want to zoom in onto this face and make basically clean it up a bit. Okay, so I'm gonna use my brush tool again. Shortcut is B, and just brush it off the neck area, so then it doesn't really like bleed as much, you know. So the changes would be a bit subtle. Okay, you can zoom in on the on people's face again, and the shortcut is Command Plus, and I can just go over a face like that. So if you need to make the brush size smaller or bigger, the shortcut for that is open or close square brackets. Okay? So that way your selection could be much more precise. All right? And then Control or Command Plus Minus to zoom in and zoom out. Okay, now once we've done this, as you can tell, it looks pretty nice, right? You can you know, it's more properly exposed now. And the next layer adjustment that I want to bring in is to increase the levels. So this is almost like a contrast, and make sure that the levels 2 is underneath curves 2. Okay, because what happened is, I'm just going to show you quickly. So this is the histogram that you get. So the curves and the levels are pretty much similar. I'm just gonna go to the midtones selection, and I'm gonna type in 120. Oh, my bad. 1.20. Okay, and as you can tell, it makes everything much brighter. Now, if I have the levels above curves, then the face would get changed as well. So make sure that the level adjustment layer is underneath the curves layer. Okay. Now, color correction is done. The next thing that I wanted to do is I want to go to the color corrections layer, and I basically wanted to remove this annoying post. Okay. The shortcut for that, or the tool that we're going to use, is called Stamp Tool, and the shortcut for that is S. Okay, and in order for you to work on it right away, you need to sample the area. So basically, I'm just going to zoom in a little closer. Okay, what you want to do is you want to sample around this cloud. So if you think about it, right, think about it as like three, or I guess multiple multiple sections of an area. So the first section is the cloud, and then the sky, and then I have a mountain, trees, shrubs, and grass. Okay, don't know how many was that. So using the stamp tool, what you want to do is you want to sample the area by holding Option or Alt if you're using PC, and click it. So Option click to sample, and then just brush it in. Okay, so if you brush it in, notice that you can see there's a crosshair. That basically that's what you're picking on the sample. So you might have to do this multiple times. Okay, and do it like that up until right there. And then once we've done with the cloud, I'm gonna switch it to the sky and brush it in a bit, so then it matches to the color. Okay, and then once you've done that, I'm gonna sample the mountains and clone this out. Okay, and then I'm just gonna fix the edge a little bit so then it doesn't look like it's kind of fake. That looks good enough. And then next one is a tree. Now, because the tree is such a I guess you can call it random shapes or texture, I guess you can just grab this the cloning anywhere. Okay. I'm gonna show you one more thing, one cool things that you can do with the cloning tool. All right, I think some of you might know the answer. All right, so we're gonna work on the wall or on the side walls, and then I'm gonna work on the shrubs. Again, shrubs are similar to the trees. You don't have to be that precise because it's very texture-like, right? And now I'm working on the grass, right? And just carefully go around this woman's hat. And that, I think that's pretty good. And then if you want to clean this up, you can do that one as well with the clone stamp tool. Okay, now that's it. Now the beauty of this is the scary part, and somehow I can easily make people impressed with this. Now, again, I'm still using my stamp tool, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to clone this woman, right? So I'm gonna sample this using by holding the Alt or Option key in the Mac, and then I'm just gonna brush it like that. Isn't that kind of scary? You have multiple person in there. Okay, let's just undo that. All right. So I think that's it. So that's before, and that's the after. Everything looks better now with this lesson. I think what you learn is you learn about how to use a layer adjustment, so then you don't destroy any things. It's a non-destructive things in Photoshop. And number two is you also learn how to use a clone stamp. You also use a selection tool. Okay, so that's it, everyone. That's a tutorial video for this lesson. Hopefully you learned something. If you do have questions, you can always leave on the comment below. All right, thank you again.